Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts about being a kid, but I had to give it up because I realized it was full of sugar and junk and the things that you really shouldn't eat. So, like everybody else trying to cut down on carbs and sugar and unhealthy food, I realized I can't just eat everything that I want anymore. So, you have, protein shakes and vegetable shakes and powders and just, ugh. That's why I think you should try the thing that I tried, which is Magic Spoon. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein so you can get strong, and only net 4 grams of carbs for each serving. And that's only 140 calories per serving. It's keto-friendly. It's gluten-free. It's grain-free. It's soy-free. It's low-carb and GMO-free. The variety pack includes 4 flavors of cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. It's absolutely delicious. And if you go to magicspoon.com/STP to grab your variety pack and try it today, well, you get $5 off your first order. Again, use our promo code STP at checkout and get yourself $5 off your first order at magicspoon.com. Again, that's magicspoon.com/STP.
STP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go! I mean, I didn't know that the NHL wanted Vegas in the series that badly. They had to have their own people step in. Like, as much as I thought Montreal wasn't going to win a game, I didn't want them to lose like this. This is crazy.
It really is a shame that this has become such a story, because what the story should be is what a damn series.
Yep.
Like, so good. The better team has lost back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Vegas was way better, lost. Montreal was way better, lost. It's perfect chaos. There's so many stories. Montreal was getting the lion's share of them. Robin Leonard stepping in, golden quotes after the game. That's what we should be talking about. But no, we're talking about Chris frickin' Lee, one of the most experienced officials in the National Hockey League, 1,171 career NHL games. First game was in 2001, and he's brutal. 20 years, over 20 years.
Okay. Now, for anybody that may have missed the game, what happened?
Specifically at the end of the second?
Let's talk about the if you were to explain this to a person who who maybe doesn't love hockey and you try to make it interesting. How would you explain this? And there's a reason I'm asking this question.
So here, Jesse.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so in hockey there are rules, and they're just kind of not calling them. And I saw a few Vegas fans get defensive. This isn't about the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah,
it's
not about Vegas.
It's not about you. It's not about Vegas being dirty or having a dirty reputation. I don't really think they do. They're not freaking calling anything. Yeah. And like, Montreal cannot get on a power play, and they're not calling anything. And it's going both ways. Like, Edmondson's check in the first period was pretty ugly, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just not calling anything. And then they finally do. I want to say it was Kotkaniemi's hook.
Suzuki.
Or am I getting?
So
okay, so I think I'm getting my games. There was the one where, so that must have been game 3 then, when Pacioretty grabbed Kotkaniemi's stick, he held it.
Yeah,
sort of thing. That
was the game before.
He did the little chicken wing. The amount of stuff they're letting go makes the stuff that they call preposterous. And it's just really, really bad. And what's unique about this situation is that it's the same officiating crew night in and night out, due to COVID. Although, unless there's been some sort of revelation that I'm not aware of, they're being ambiguous about what COVID means. Because as far as I can tell, it's just officials can't travel, and that's the issue.
I think it's just easier.
I mean, are you looking at us for an answer on that? Because I sure as hell don't know.
There's 3 specific instances that I look at, and I'm like, okay, Chris Lee specifically, you're dropping the ball here. One is the Corey Perry high stick to the face, where he clearly gets high sticked in the face, and he comes out. This is game 3 when you see his bloodied face. There's blood on the ice, and that should be a double minor. Should be a 4-minute power play for Montreal. There's no call there. And there's some debate as to whether he got hit in the face with the puck or but he clearly got hit in the face with the stick when they slowed it down in slow motion. He comes back after Montreal wins. He's at the bloody face. He comes out like a wrestler. Amazing. The second play was the Suzuki call on the hooking when they didn't call penalties all game. And then in the second period, he literally tapped. I forget which Vegas player he tapped, but he tapped him and they called a hooking penalty. It was like, if you're not going to call anything, why call this hook that wasn't even a hook? And then at the end of that power play, after Montreal kills that, Braden McNabb and Nick Suzuki are fighting in front of the Vegas Golden Knights net. Braden McNabb is punching Nick Suzuki in the face. He literally punches him in the face, cross-checks in the back a couple times, and then they start roughing each other, and nothing is called. And the referees there's two of them right in front of the guys while they're fighting, while the game is happening, and they don't call any penalties. And that's what makes Simpson lose it on the broadcast. And that's what made me just be like, what the hell's going on in this series? Why can't these referees get a hold of this game?
And I just sent a picture to the chat. It was tweeted out by John Scott. It's Chris Lee staring straight at it. And they got into a bit of a scuffle. I think at worst, I cannot make myself say they should both be going. If they should both be going to the box, it should be McNabb 4, Suzuki 2.
Yeah.
And Montreal, can I tell you what I think is happening with Nick Suzuki specifically? He's getting the Kadri treatment. Kadri was amazing at drawing penalties, and in Leafs Nation, we made a bit too big a deal of it, and refs realized we're being made a fool by this player, and they stopped calling anything. Suzuki, amazing player, only going to get more amazing, has had some spectacular dives in these playoffs.
Yeah.
He really has.
But it's worked. It was working.
Well, they weren't, some of his more egregious ones were no calls either side. But I think, I don't know, part of me wonders if this is, looks good on you. Refs just letting him take his lumps. Stop.
Can I tell you that that's the wrong way to referee a game?
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
That's just wrong. If that's what they're doing, if that's what they're thinking in their heads, you're wrong about how you should be officiating an NHL game.
Because that would be retribution. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're
call
supposed
the
to
game?
be an impartial party. Yeah, call the game the way it's supposed to be called. Now, I don't know. Craig's not known for his hot takes, I would say. He's right.
I've never heard him get mad. Literally,
Craig Simpson got mad. Here we go.
And Chris Lee still hasn't called a penalty yet. The whistle hasn't even gone. You want to lose control of the game, this is how you do it. That's just ridiculous. Right now you got to push him and shove it. So Suzuki and he and McNabb go one-on-one. And that's not a penalty. And you're right, there wasn't a whistle. And you let all this go, and the period's actually over. How do you set a standard now for the third period? What's a penalty, what's not?
I think what's interesting there too is even Chris Cuthbert got in on the action. But the thing that gets me is that we knew this was eventually going to happen, right? We've been talking probably for the last 3 playoffs about this, and people. Actually 4 playoffs ago, I can remember people being like, "Well, you're only mad because the Leafs lost to Boston," and yeah, that's partially true. But you can't tell me that the reffing's been great, and you can't tell me that other teams haven't pointed it out, and you can't tell me that everybody hasn't seen the exact same thing. And at a certain point, it really doesn't have anything to do with the teams involved or the fans involved. The NHL has piss poor, shitty officiating. Period. End of story. Send me this $25,000 fine, Mr. Bettman. Yeah. And at a certain point, you need to take responsibility for your game. It's the NHL's game. It's the NHL's brand. And if the NHL would like to step up and get onto a bigger plane, and people give me shit every time I say this, you want to be on ESPN and TNT now with the kind of eyeball watching if you want to be one of the big sports, this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They probably don't do anything about it now. They probably don't do anything about it next year. But one of these days, it's actually going to blow up. And it's going to be a problem.
They're such suckers for reputation, too. And this is one that grew in the Colorado series because Colorado couldn't get many calls out of Vegas either. but the reputation is Vegas is a heavy but clean team. To their credit, I think that's largely true. Like for a team that's built like them, I don't think they commit that many infractions, but there is some, impeding guys, and there is a little bit of, there's been a bunch. We need a more clearly defined definition of what checking from behind is, because there's been a bunch in this series, a lot from Vegas and some to Vegas.
And if you're in front of the net, you're allowed to check guys all the time in the back. Like you can cross check guys in the back if you're in front of the net, and it's not a penalty, even though in the rules you're literally not allowed to do that.
And like something like the Corey Perry incident. So there was a stoppage after that. I was told in my ear that it was to clean up blood from the ice, but I think it was just a regular scraping.
Yeah.
For God's sake, if there's a guy bleeding profusely from the face, there's no reason to get that call wrong when we all know what the call is, right? And there's a stoppage. You have time to look at it, right? It's not a matter of, listen, I understand you can't be taking a break after every whistle. That's ridiculous. At some point, the game has to move forward. You got to play. I get that. But there's a stoppage here. And Montreal is missing a very key player for them in Corey Perry. It's the the third round. Every player lines 1 through 4 is a key player at this point. But Corey Perry, I think we all know, is a bull in a china shop.
Yep.
That can't happen. That can't happen. Can you imagine the story after game 3, Montreal loses with Corey Perry in the dressing room and he comes out looking like Scar?
Yeah, thank goodness they won that game.
That's honestly what I was saying. Like, I don't, like, if you were a neutral fan, I mean, in that moment, the Habs become babyface.
Well, and you wonder with the refs, like, do you think he's carrying blood pellets? Like, what is it that do you think happened?
Right.
What could have happened?
And Perry like just throws his hands up because he's like, well, I promise I didn't do this to myself.
Yeah. It's the same.
This isn't WWE. Guys aren't blading. Sorry, what?
It's the same thing with the goalie interference penalty we saw in the Tampa Bay series. Like when they got the power play and then the Islanders scored on it and then Tampa ended up winning the game. We're like, thank goodness that goal didn't come back to bite them in the butt and the referees are deciding the game. Like, thank goodness here. Okay. The right outcome played out, even though the referees tried to get in the middle of this hockey game.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, Jesse, because this shows how deep the problem is with NHL officiating. It's not a matter of simply call more penalties. The penalties they are calling are preposterous.
Call the right ones.
Call the
right ones. I don't know if we got to help these guys out more with video, or if we got to have an eye in the sky. I don't know what
Here's
the
a
solution
question.
here is.
Would you not say that there's a change between the way the game is officiated in the regular season and in the playoffs?
Enormously.
So then why would not start there?
We could now. Is that a hockey specific problem or is that just a sports problem?
Don't know.
Because the NBA, you get away with a little bit more in the playoffs too.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we just go back to letting people to go then?
Just let it all go.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go. What game do you want?
The game I want is consistency. Pick one.
Yes, that's the game I would like. If I'm building a hockey team, I'm upset about the fact that I can't consistently figure out what my team is going to have thrown at it with the officiating all season long. And I think, I'll bring it up every episode till I'm blue in the face. The fact that Connor McDavid didn't draw one fucking penalty in the first round. Come on.
And
are you NHL, that's it. That's all you need to know.
Teams are trying to evolve. We got rid of the goons. We got rid of the guys who play 4 or 5 minutes a game and just punch you in the head. And some of the guys who stuck around, they had to evolve. And if this keeps up, players they're coming back. We're just going to get players to hurt you. We're going to injure your stars. We're going to, what's it going to be? Pick your poison. Is it going to be elbow to the head? Is it going to be a fight? We're going to jump you off the face-off. George Peros got KO'd a staged fight with Colton Orr. That was the first game of the season. That's how you want to start your seasons? You want to go back to that? That's the conversation coming out of the first game of an 82-game season. Mm-hmm. Is that horrifying scene.
How about
Arrow's face down on the ice.
Fraser McLaren played how many seasons in the NHL and scored how many goals?
Oh, let me look that up.
And that's not a knock against Fraser. He did what he needed to do. Guy played in the show. Good for him. But when you find out the total,
102 games, but spread over 6 seasons.
how many goals?
4. He had 3 in 1 year for the Leafs. Yo, holy shit. Okay, so he had 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points in 35 games, which is all career highs, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And in those 35 games, 102 penalty minutes.
Well, and this
Holy
is what I would say is that it's not a knock on Fraser McLaren, but don't tell me that. Are we making room for that on the roster again? And I mean, maybe we're pushing a little too far here, but I do think that there is some merit to the idea that other teams have to be looking at that as an option.
I think, you know what, Adam, I think you're right. And we're getting a little too far away from what the conversation should be. Just call the rule book. Just go. And it can even still be a playoff version of the rule book. Like guys like McDavid still cannot be mauled. And like scrums are going to happen after the whistle all the time. If you call every single one of those, you're never going to get anything done. Mm-hmm. But it was McNabb shoves Suzuki. Suzuki shoves him back. McNabb didn't want Suzuki to get one over on him. He gives him a left hand, left fist right to the face. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm not even asking you to bend the goalpost because Suzuki's younger and smaller. You cannot punch your opponent in the head. And if you both do it, you both got to go. I just don't get it. And it would have been a bigger story after game 3 had Montreal not won. And it was still a story. It's what is a bigger story in the series at this moment? You know, you could argue, well, Kelly McCrimmon and Dominic Ducharme with the positive tests and, you know, Vegas without a number 1 and this and that and the other. But it's all anybody's talking about today.
The biggest story out of the series
in the National Hockey League.
It should be right now, Leonard and Fleury. Because I think that's been the most compelling thing for me from in terms of hockey. Like that's been the most compelling thing. These just Pete DeBoer having the cojones, or to steal the Jim Ross term, the intestinal fortitude to go with Leonard just out of nothing. Just like, hey, I'm going to put in the other guy, and then it worked. It was awesome.
Well, what I personally like is that the DeBoer sword made another appearance, stabbing Fleury in the back one more time. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just have a hard time, by the way, believing that came out of nowhere. Like everyone's like, oh, DeBoer with the galaxy brain. I'm like, are you sure?
Okay, I don't think it's a galaxy brain. I think it has everything to do with what happened with Marc-Andre Fleury giving away the puck at the end of game 3.
That's it? Like, yes. I thought it was shocking that's because Marc-Andre Fleury is having the best season of his career in his mid to late 30s. Yep. Like he's having the best and they went away from him. I think that's shocking.
He's a coach where the margin, first off, he can't. Robin Lehner is a great goalie who had some injuries and, you know, played great and was pretty good last year too. Marc-Andre Fleury had a great year, but that lapse in judgment could potentially cost this team the Stanley Cup Finals. And if you're a head coach, you have to look at that and go, okay, have you played too many games in a row? How is he, 35?
Let me look.
He's 35 years old, 36 years old.
36.
And 36, not focused. That kind of lapse cannot happen. I'm going to give you a day off. You're not going to like it.
The moment I knew Vegas was going to lose that game is the very next play after the tying goal. It's like he went out and played the puck out of spite.
Yes.
And he was like whacking it one-handed. Yeah. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Right. And
you're out of your mind whacking at the puck like that.
This is my point. I think Pete DeBoer saw that and said, okay, you need to sit down for a bit. Sometimes doesn't matter that sometimes the best coaches pull us out of the game before our performance falls off. That's the best coaching. And it obviously leaves you open to questions. And I loved Robin Lehner's press conference. Yeah, I got to the arena early and I read Twitter and got mad. I'm like, who is this? Kevin Durant? Like, right. He's just getting angry at everybody.
Chill, bro.
But he played a great game. Yeah. I mean, he's the best Vegas player that took the ice last night.
Yep.
it's an option that Pete DeBoer has, that when you see your starting goaltender in the Leafs, not to make everything about the Leafs, but is there another perspective in the world? The Leafs have never had this. When Freddie Anderson looked shaky, and often he did in the playoffs because he played 60 games already by the time they got there, there was no option. It's Freddie again, and Freddie again, and Freddie again after that. And this is what you have. And I think, the Leafs would be smart this year to take a good old look at this. I think Chris Johnston said it on our show a couple weeks ago. They're looking for a legitimate other option. Not that Jack Campbell isn't great, but they need two, and they know it. And I think if you look at the way Pittsburgh handled things when they won their cups, if you look at the way Washington handled things when they won their cups, Vegas has had a very, very strong goaltending contingent. Boy, good for them. And good call on Pete DeBoer's part. Doesn't mean Marc-Andre Fleury's a bad goalie or that he won't get back in. It's just time.
One thing that was tweeted at me when I was asking for questions is that 3 of the 4 teams that are left are currently spending over $10 million on goaltending. I think that's very indicative of where you should be putting your money. Like maybe it's not so much in the forward group, and maybe Montreal had it smart when they went out and they got an expensive backup, even though they had a very expensive starter.
So let me ask you this question. Name a team remaining that doesn't have like all-star caliber goaltending. Occasionally get a team that gets into the playoffs this late, and it's like, whoa, I don't know how they're doing it with that goalie, but they are managing it.
We haven't even seen the best goalie in these playoffs play yet. Curtis McElhinney. We have not seen it yet, but we will.
Did the Leafs blow their chances at a Stanley Cup when they let him go?
I mean, I think it's pretty concrete. They made the wrong decision there. I don't know about a chance at a Stanley Cup.
They got him for free. They gave him up for free. He's still in the NHL on the best team in the NHL
with a ring.
Oh,
Curtis McElhinney, Stanley Cup champion.
God, Leafs,
Hurts
get
my
out of
heart.
your own damn way, for God's sake.
Along those lines, my favorite tweet from last night was Pierre LeBrun, who said, Paul Byron was on waivers 3 times this season. He had the best game out of any Canadian.
Wow.
That's how Montreal got him.
Yeah. 3 times. Exposed to the NHL. Now he's playing he's the best player on the ice for his team in a loss, unfortunately, but in the middle of the playoffs, in the conference finals. Unbelievable.
Well, that's the upsetting part. I think it's just like, God, you look at these guys and you go, man, we could have had any of this. Now, I do want to talk about some Montreal roster things, specifically relating to Phil Deneau later on in the show. So we'll come back to them. Right now, though, we got to get to the Islanders in Tampa. That series knotted up at 2. And I think, first off, Braden Point with another goal. And it just rubs salt in the wound of Leaf fans. Braden Point accepted less money. He's that many playoff games. I signed, I think, the same summer that Mitch Marner did. There is a comparison there. I don't care what anyone says. There is.
Okay, as someone...
Leaf stock isn't where I expected with Tampa.
Every time I hear Braden Point's name, every time.
Adam touches on something earlier than I thought, but we might as well get there. I hated the Marner contract saga. I hated his playoff performance, especially later in the series. But we talked about the Leafs got to find a way to win fans back. That guy has to win people back specifically.
Mitch Marner?
Individual. Yeah, dude. His name gets brought up. It gets shoehorned into every conversation. Braden Point does anything good, and people go, oh, yeah, well, Mitch Marner. Ben Simmons had a bad game last night for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I see people like they're making Ben Simmons, Mitch Marner memes.
That
he
was
had
such a
7 bad fourth quarters.
Yeah, that's not the same.
All-star.
He doesn't know how to play a certain part of the game. Like that'd be like if Mitch Marner didn't know how to shoot the puck. It's different.
Well, it depends who you ask.
It's different.
Depends. I agree. Ben Simmons is owed 146 mil.
There's an argument to be made that Mitch Marner also needs a jump shot. I'm not kidding. Ben Simmons doesn't have a jump shot. I think Mitch Marner needs a shot.
It's probably jump highest or second highest on the Leafs, I bet, on skates.
On skates?
I was actually talking about a real shot.
Who would jump higher on the Leafs than Mitch? I think Mitch would
Morgan
win.
Riley.
Is he a high jumper?
Yeah, he's got a ridiculous vert.
I don't know that.
It's like, oh yeah, when he was like 18, he was like 5 feet off the ground.
And these are the things Steve knows that no one else should know. but Steve knows them.
for some stupid reason.
Why do you know that? Well,
I don't know. I saw like combine footage or whatever.
Steve, why does Mitch Marner need to win back this fan base? That's what you were talking about.
Because people find ways to be mad at him. Like Philadelphia lost a 7-game series in basketball, and people went, well, their disappointing player and ours are the same.
well, I think
which
it's a fair
I am
point.
saying is over the top.
It's a fair point to say that disappointing players often are disappointing for the same reasons. When they're disappointing, they didn't perform under pressure.
No one's disappointed in the way, pick a name. No one's disappointed in the way Adam Brooks played in the first round.
No,
You earn the right. You know what, Jesse? Me too. No, you earn the right to disappoint people by being good.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you can't disappoint people if they don't expect anything of you. I don't know what this guy does. I don't know what this guy does, but sorry, Jesse.
How do you if Mitch Marner can't redeem himself until next year this time? Like he can't until the playoffs happen, nobody's gonna believe him. You finished.
I think he can before that.
Yeah,
I think you need
How?
to see. I think Toronto fans, first off, dominating on the power play. Guys given every opportunity in the world to score 1 billion points, dominating on the power play.
In July.
Okay, well, there's no hockey in July normally, but yes, I think we're talking about like it's baby steps, right? It's not just going to be building up to that. I think they need to get that power play going. I think Mitch Marner needs to do the spectacular things that Mitch Marner is capable of doing. He's capable. That's Steve. You said it. You earn the right for people to be disappointed in you because they had higher expectations. Braden Point has high expectations, sky high expectations. He delivers.
Is there a better
And the only
playoff
way
performer in the league?
I don't know. I don't know. And the thing that bothers me is he performed in the playoffs before he got that contract. And people were like, well, so did Mitch. Mitch was on the third line. Okay.
and he hasn't scored a goal since.
And anybody that tells me on those Babcock teams that Austin Matthews, whatever line he was on, wasn't the first line, you're lying to yourself. He was on the first line. He is the first line. You could put him on the fourth line. You can play him fourth line minutes, but that's the scariest line, whatever line he's on.
All right.
And I'm just saying it's a different ball game. And so I think if we want to get into the Mitch Marner thing quickly, I think you build it slowly and you perform in the playoffs next year. Right?
I personally hope he's able to do it. I'm not cheering against.
No.
I'm not actively cheering against any member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's stupid.
It's just
If you're a Leafs fan,
you're watching the remainder of the playoffs going, I know that player has the skill set. Why didn't it happen? I think that's what we're doing here.
yeah. Oh my God, I'm just looking. Like Braden Point was a little under a point a game in the 2019-20 season before the season ended, and then this monster has 33 points, 14 of which are goals in 23 games en route to the Cup, and he's got 12 goals in 15.
Mm-hmm. 7.
That is a playoff performer. 4 penalty minutes. Get out of here. Well,
Yeah.
I guess it's not as big an accomplishment in the playoffs.
Now,
He doesn't take any penalties in the playoffs. No one does.
Andre Vasilevsky was great. Semyon Varlamov was great, but Ryan Pulock was the guy that saved the game for the Islanders. What a save it was.
Yeah.
That is the kind of playoff drama that you're here for. What
He
an
was also
unbelievable save.
the one that caused that situation because he didn't clear the puck. If you rewind
Whatever.
14 not even 14, like 8 seconds before he makes the save, it's him shooting the puck around the boards and doing a little weak shot that gets directly taken by Tampa, and they shoot it out front to Ryan McDonough, and then he scrambles back and makes the save.
So what you could say is he had him right where he wanted him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse,
Totally.
you're not thinking about this, like an athlete. Why don't
Yeah.
you watch the games?
You didn't hashtag play it. You don't know.
Yeah, he's out there playing 4D chess.
I don't know.
Man, sorry.
Go ahead. I want to talk a little bit about Matt Martin, because I think he was the best Islander on the ice on Saturday.
And there was a conversation around him.
He knocks down Pat Maroon at the end of I think it was the second period when he comes at him and like a brick wall, he falls down. That was awesome to see. And then he scores the goal, the game winner, which was just fun from what do they call it? The identity line. Like those guys, they started the night. They Trotz did the thing where you start with your energy line, you start with the identity line. Those guys go out there. Matt Martin's skating the hardest, and he does it while his brother-in-law is getting married. I know everyone likes that story as well. And then he said that after that he did it, he wanted to do something special for them, and he delivered. Like that's if we're bringing it back to Mitch Marner, that's the playoff performance you want. You want a guy who's like, I'm going to go out there and do a thing, and he does a thing, and he plays his style, which is gritty, and I'm going to get a couple hits in there, and then he lucks into a goal because he's playing hard. It was awesome. It was an awesome night by Matt Martin.
Not to make everything about the Leafs, but there was a tweet after he scores the game winner. It was basically like the Leafs ditched this guy to the curb, and all of a sudden Nazem Kadri's got to be the team policeman, so he gets himself suspended, and now look at him. And they gave him up for nothing.
Nazem Kadri was on the Leafs. Sorry, Matt Martin was on the Leafs when Nazem Kadri was first suspended. So and that was Joey Vendetta who tweeted that, by the way.
Yes.
That's a take. Like that's a bad take, but it's a take, I guess.
The Kadri half of it makes no sense, but I'm not going to lie. If you look at Matt Martin before he joined the Leafs and after, his worst years were in Toronto.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be here.
They didn't use him properly.
He left.
I don't know if it said he didn't want to be here. He didn't leave. They ditched him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
they gave him a $10
wanted to go
contract.
back to New York, and they let him go.
Well, if that's the case, it certainly shows because
I think that was probably mutual. I think that there was, from what I've heard, it was more than play.
He was a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was happy to be a Leaf when he was in the lineup.
Mm-hmm. And Babs
they took him out.
Well, I mean, but you have to remember at the time too, he was the player that didn't fit. He didn't fit what they were trying to do. He fits what the Islanders are trying to do. And I'm sorry, I have to put the brakes on this. One Matt Martin good game does not mean that the Leafs made a bad decision in giving up on the guy. Didn't fit what the system was. Listen, then you can say what you want about the Leafs' lack of success ever since, but it has nothing to do with Matt Martin. Not a fucking thing. And he had one good game. And you know who else had a great game last year in the playoffs?
Who?
Jay fucking Beagle. And I heard from a ton of Canucks fans who were like, yeah, see? Jay Beagle, worth it. And they were serious. How do you feel about Jay Beagle now? Let me just throw this at you. Depth guys in the playoffs have good games. That's why they're there. But to say that Matt Martin was going to be a big part of what the Leafs were going forward, come on. $2.5 million on the fourth line. We would be dying right now with the money they're paying the top four guys. There'd be no way for it. There's no way. They gave up on Andreas Janssen, who makes less.
Some would say that's all part of the problem.
I'm not necessarily going to dispute that, but the Leafs at least had to try, right?
Yeah.
Anybody listening, Steve said that with a smirk.
Yeah. It
is becoming a problem.
It wasn't a fit, and he fits on the Islanders. It's not luck that Matt Martin is performing, in my opinion. He's it's weird. They've had the same extraordinarily expensive fourth line for 8 years with a 2-year hiatus.
It's Martin, Clutterbuck, and Cizikas. Yeah. Those guys are awesome.
And they make how much money they make? Combined, it's $8 million, $9 million on your fourth line, but every single game, you know what to expect. They're going to be in your face. It's going to be a miserable time, and they're actually probably going to bang in a few goals. I think they got some penalty killers. It's just not a fun time. It's the identity line.
Yeah.
It's been there forever.
Yep.
Good for them.
At the end of, or when the Islanders scored their first goal, I know the shots were 17-6. It was a weird game because it seemed like it was Tampa's game for the first period and a half. And then that middle stretch where the Islanders score 3 straight goals and they go up 3-0, it's dominated by the Islanders. And then you get the score effects coming back when it's 3-0 and Tampa makes it 3-2. And then they barely hold on. It was a really, really great hockey game on Saturday.
Yeah. I would love to hear in the comment section, because I've said a few times, this series is a great way to learn hockey. What have you learned? Anyone who's just sort of getting to know, I want to know what you've learned from watching this series game.
What have you learned watching Steve Dangle's live broadcasts?
Oh, probably a lot more.
Would also like to know.
I'm really smart. Man. You're probably learning a lot. Matt Smartin. That's what they call me.
Boo.
I think we got a title
Real
of the
good.
show.
Wow, and that's it for us. Let's wrap up the entire
That's it
show
for
and never
us.
come back.
Hey,
That's
happy
the high
belated
point.
Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day, everybody. There you go.
Hey,
Best dad ever.
That's cute. I love that.
None of the rest of you are the best dad. It's me. Says so on the mug.
New guy is the best one. I see.
Yep.
Oh,
Calder. I got the Father of the Year Calder.
Oh, there. Dinner time can be chaotic, but with Freshly, it's easy. Their chefs take care of your meals a few nights a week just to take the pressure off, which is kind of nice. Grocery shopping and cooking can be a pain, especially right now. And with Freshly, you don't have to. Your meals arrive cooked and fresh every week, so you just keep your fridge stocked and skip the trip to the store. Ordering is easy too. You just go to visitfreshly.com and choose from over 30 delicious, satisfying, better-for-you meals like steak peppercorn, sausage baked penne, and chicken pesto bowls. I'm telling you. Now, Freshly can also fit your lifestyle too, with a variety of plans and meals to pick from that work with your dietary needs, preferences, tastes, size. And now, if you listen to the STP, you can try Freshly for just $6.16 per meal. Stop searching the internet for healthy food near me every night and live freshly. So right now, again, Freshly is offering a promo. You get $40 off your first two orders when you go to freshly.com/STP. Stop stressing about dinner. Just go to freshly.com/STP for $40 off your first two orders. That's freshly.com/STP for $40 off your first two orders. So how are you sleeping these days? Is it good? Is it great? Is it not so good? Here's the thing. We want you to sleep well. You need it. It's an exhausting time to be alive. How about this? You go to helixsleep.com, you take a quiz, it's 2 minutes long, and they'll match you with the mattress that's perfect for you. Not just in the way you sleep, like as in like, do you sleep on your face, do you sleep on your back, but how your partner sleeps. It's important. Everybody's unique, and Helix knows that. So they have several different mattress models for you to choose from. They have soft, medium, firm mattresses that are great for cooling you down if you sleep hot, which is definitely me, and even a Helix Plus mattress for plus-size sleepers. I took the Helix quiz. I was matched with a firm mattress. I sleep on my stomach all night long, and boy, did that help. It honestly has been a life changer. So if you want to get a great sleep, go to helixsleep.com/STP, take their 2-minute quiz, and they'll match you with a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. They also have a 10-year warranty. So if you try it out for 100 nights, risk-free, they'll pick it up if you don't like it, but we're pretty sure you're going to like it. Helix Sleep is offering $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/STP. Again, helixsleep.com/STP. And we're going to give you $200 off the mattress orders and 2 free pillows. So I want to get to some off-ice stuff because this is the part of the year where it starts to really heat up. We've got Jack Eichel news. We've got other bunch of stuff. But I want to start with this. And this is not going to be the top story of the day because of the market it's in. With respect to everybody in Arizona, it's just not. But
They know.
we need to talk a little bit more about the huge mistake the Coyotes made in re-signing Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And it doesn't mean that Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a bad player. And it doesn't mean that we don't think he maybe was worth that particular summer. But the Arizona Coyotes needed to do a better job of asset management. See, when you have a star player that's on the decline, and objectively, he's on the decline. There are numbers, all the metrics show that he is.
Yeah.
And he's going into his big contract year, and there's a team that wants him, and they want to re-sign him to big money. You let the team that wants him have him, and you go take their picks. The Vancouver Canucks were willing to drive thousands of dollars in picks, millions of dollars in picks to Arizona. Just drop them off at your front door, which they could desperately use right now because they've been fined a bunch of them. Instead, the Arizona Coyotes are saddled with the Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract extension, which has 5 years remaining, I believe, or 6. And
let me check that.
Beyond that, are now trying to trade it. Don't check it, Steve. Don't worry, I'll check it. I want to know, you drew some parallels in our group chat about this. Who else was signed that summer to big money?
Man, I remember we were in the Fan 590 studio when we were talking about this.
Wow,
it was the
really?
big summer, the big fish. It was Ekman-Larsson, Doughty, Carlson. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Drew Doughty, Erik Karlsson. Now, supposedly Drew Doughty's numbers are still pretty good. Erik Karlsson, we know the wide range of struggle. He's a rover. Mm-hmm. He's a rover. Convert him to the wing. I don't know. And Ekman Larsson. And those teams finished 22nd, 25th, and 26th, respectively, in a league that's 31 teams, going to be 32 next year.
For a team that's struggling immensely, I'm just going to jump in here for a second. It's an $8.25 million contract, which is the lowest between Doughty and Karlsson both got 11.
It's by far the lowest.
But Ekman Larsson also wasn't as good. And he is due a $5.25 million signing bonus on whatever this year's version of July 1st is. July 22nd or whatever the hell they're calling it. Whatever
I don't actually know. Yeah.
Whatever free agency is. And that's a big hit for the Coyotes. That's a lot of money for a team that last year at this time was making late payments. Do you remember that?
I certainly do.
They were late on player bonus payments and they were late on arena payments.
Oh God. Man, that contract is just a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I think they're still 2 years away from being able to trade it.
Well, they're trying to now.
And they tried to last offseason.
I'm giving you nothing. And the Coyotes have nothing to offer. They have, almost nothing to offer. They do have a 2022 first rounder, but they don't have one this year. They have 2 seconds, don't have a third. Oh boy. Like this team that just replenished some of the picks they lost. If I'm a team looking to take on Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I'm cleaning you up. Yeah, it's a good thing you got all those picks back. Thanks.
Or you're making them retain.
Right.
Oh, which I don't think makes any sense for the Coyotes. Oh, I don't know what you do there. That's tough.
In October, they had the self-imposed deadline of October 9th is when they tried to trade him. And there are two teams that OEL was going to go to was the Bruins and the Canucks. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't get a deal with either of those teams. So now that he's expanded his list of teams because he has a no-move clause, do you think is still a chance he goes to the Bruins or Canucks? Do you see a fit in either one of those or somebody else, one of the other 29 teams?
I don't see... You know what I see with the Canucks is because Arizona might be willing to take less salary back. I'm curious about how the Tyler Myers contract is structured. And the reason I say that is it saves Arizona a couple $1 million. The Aquilinis can absolutely afford the signing bonus. And if there is no signing bonus in the Tyler Myers contract, well, there's a guy that can be there long-term, steady. And if you do rebuild or retool, whatever you want to call it, not a bad guy to have around at $6 million.
So Adam's onto something here. Not necessarily like it doesn't have to be Oliver Ekman-Larsson here, but he's onto something with Tyler Myers. So he's going to get on whatever the new version of July 1st is, he's going to get a $5 million signing bonus and then will be owed an additional $2 million. The next year, his base salary is $5 million. With no bonus, and then the following year it's a $5 million signing bonus, $1 million salary. So he'll be owed 2 + 5 is 7 + 6 is $13 million.
It's a lot less than the 5 years and 30. Well, we're talking
13 over 3.
That's not bad. And actually, taking if that was what you signed Tyler Myers to this offseason, I don't think anybody's like, "Whoa, that's terrible." He's okay.
Some people, but like it's not particularly noteworthy,
right?
You know what I mean?
With guys, listen, the cap will go up eventually. You're going to need some numbers on the books, and Arizona's got to get a guy in there that's steady and is going to stay there long term. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to be. It's a shame that the team's not in better shape, but it could be. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, though, is I think a part of what the team was, and I think that there needs to be an identity change in Arizona to what the team wants to be going forward. And I don't think you can get there without trading Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I felt the same thing with Shane Doan. I think if they'd moved on from Shane Doan sooner, they would have been able to create a newer identity faster. But that was Shane Doan's team, even beyond the point of Shane Doan being an effective NHL player. And I think that was the wrong move.
I don't think you're ever going to get $8.25 million worth of value out of Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but I don't think I'm off base saying it's reasonable to believe a player that talented will recover at least somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be better. I think a change of scenery would be very good for him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think you surround him, like if he gets to play with, like, let's say it's Vancouver again, right? This is a for instance, by the way, we have no idea if Vancouver cares. But let's say they do the Tyler Myers for Oliver Ekman-Larsson straight up, and they re-sign Pettersson, they re-sign Hughes. Well, okay, so he's playing with Hughes and Pettersson and Horvat and a pretty good young core there. That's exciting. That's fun. They got a pretty good tandem goaltending. You're going to be fighting for the playoffs. You know that. You know that's the goal at least. Maybe it's not a lock, but I like that a lot better than what I'm seeing in Arizona, which is just perpetual cycle of it's a tough place to play when you don't feel like you're ever a lock to do anything.
Well, and it's like I said with the Sens, like you sort of have to hit this magical window in order to compete. That's Arizona in a nutshell. You got to hit this magical window where money and talent align. And it's hard enough as it is to win a Stanley Cup. Well, I mean, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then further handcuffing yourself with that situation, I just don't know how you do it.
And teams like that, it's once every 20 years they kind of hit it. So it seems like a little cycle, you know?
Yeah, they've made the third round once.
And then they go back to rebuild mode, and then they hit it again. They get lucky when everything lines up, and then they go back to rebuild mode. And it's never consistent.
This is the problem, too, is the way that Arizona has structured this contract, guys, is the bonuses were sort of spread out. And like he's going to get this $5 million bonus on whatever this year's version of July 1st is. And then next year, his base salary is 10.5. Forget his cap hit. How many teams can go, yep, 10.5 to one player, no problem. And then it's 8 the next year, and it's still 5.25 the last 2 years of the deal. By the way, the deal ends in 26-27. It's a long time.
It's going to be 37 at the end of that deal, because he's 30 this year on July 17th. In a couple of weeks, he's going to be 30.
It's one of those deals designed.
I feel like he's still a young guy.
Yeah, like that.
It's a deal designed to you're able to trade them at certain points in their career. I almost wonder if they sat down and they were like, "Yeah, you could trade me at this time. That'd be okay." I don't know.
And it's a shame, really, because he's been such a hero there for so long too. Like I think we need to acknowledge the attachment that Coyotes fans have with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. It's just a shame, everything that's happened. None of it's the fans' fault. And with John Chayka and pulling the stuff that he pulled, and the new ownership pulling what they've pulled, and all the things that go into that, man, you just like the fans deserve so much better than this. They deserve to have a guy like that at $8 million not be a problem. And the only problem with Oliver Ekman-Larsson is how much he makes.
Yeah, Arizona's cap friendly, by the way, is a mess. Like that is they got a lot of work to do. It's not bad deals. It's just an unbelievable amount of work to do. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, and Christian Dvorak are all signed to term. Kessel's going to expire after this year. Pitlick's going to expire after this year. Krause is going to expire after this year. Johan Larsson, Christian Fischer. Mm-hmm. Then you got Dryden Hunt, John Hayden, Connor Garland is a huge one, and Lane Pettersson, all RFA. Derek Brassard's a UFA. Michael Bunting is a UFA. He's a guy who is probably going to need a deal. Wasn't he on Team Canada for the World Championship? I don't know about this year, but the year before.
Don't know.
And then you only have 3 defensemen signed. Literally 3. You have Ekman-Larsson, who we're talking about trading, Jacob Chychrun, and Ilya Lyubushkin. And then it's Demers, UFA, Goligoski, UFA, Ness, UFA, Gross, UFA, Osterley, UFA, Halmerson, UFA. Your goalies are ripe for the picking.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose Ranta. Seattle could target Aiden Hill. Boy, they got some work to do, man.
The defense is crazy. They literally need like 6 bodies.
Yeah, right. and they'll get them. Like, I mean, we're exactly a month away from the expansion draft. Today's the day.
There's no shortage of guys who will accept league min to put on an NHL jersey. You will find people.
Of course. And like you said, Arizona's, it's not bad. I think their taxes are pretty decent.
It's a great place to live.
Yeah, but boy, you want to be good too, and they got a lot of work to do to be good.
Well, it'll be very, very interesting to see how that goes. And actually, I'm curious to see who, because Arizona as a team on the ice, I mean, they still could have made the playoffs this year. Let's acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's a mess. And yes, it's going to be hard to trade Ekman-Larsson, but it doesn't seem quite as hopeless as the Buffalo Sabres situation, which is what we're going to get to right now. Now, Jeremy White on WGR, which is the big sports station in Buffalo, has said that in terms, when it comes to Jack Eichel, he's hearing days, not weeks until he's dealt.
Oh, tomato.
If I'm negotiating with Kevin Adams, it's a prerequisite that I get this player before the expansion draft. I gotta be able to plan the future of my franchise, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. So it makes perfect sense that Eichel would be gone sooner rather than later.
I wonder who it's going to be too. Can we just do a random guess? Like, can everybody just pick a team and go, here's why I think? And like, it's not going to be a hot take. It's not going to be like Montreal will never win another game and I'll donate to charity if they do. I want it to be like, here's what I think the most likely destination is, and here's why.
Adam, you're freaking funny, man. I'm going to say Columbus.
Whoa. Wow. Silly.
Their name's been rumored. They have 3 first-round picks in a draft that very few teams value, but Buffalo does. I think that's also Buffalo just putting it out there. Listen, we want futures for this player. And also, you have a hard time attracting players. Columbus has a really hard time attracting free agents, and you need a number 1 center. This is legitimately a chance to change the entire course of your team. Columbus, like on defense, on the wing, in nets, like they got some really good pieces. There's a reason it took so long for them to really blow it up. I think they'll probably get Nick Foligno back.
Follow-up question as a part of this, Steve.
I'd say Eichel. Yes.
Does getting Jack Eichel lower Patrick Laine's price for re-signing? Because he's not the guy now.
I think it makes him feel better, and I think it makes him feel better. I wouldn't say it lowers the price.
Okay.
I like, our conversation a few shows ago. Laine's not going to be like, oh, I get to play with Eichel. Hey, you put your checkbook away. This is a chance for me to really do something here in Ohio. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. I would love to be romantic about that. I think he's still going to get his. I think he cost himself a bunch of money too. I know that's going against what I just said about Columbus. You have trouble attracting talent, but at the end of the day, they still run the show here. He's an RFA.
Jesse.
I'm trying to think of an outside team that might think they're ready to contend right now, and this is kind of the last piece. Like, I don't know if it's Philly, who says we had a bad season, but we were like 1 piece away from turning it around. If our goalie situation gets sorted out and we get this bona fide number 1 center, maybe we can go for it now. Mm-hmm. You're gonna call me crazy, but something like the Montreal Canadiens.
Ooh,
get spicy.
For years, we've been saying you have all of this cap room and all of these assets. Go out and do something. Bergevin is just the guy to say, I'm gonna go get the big fish. All of these guys who are performing in the playoffs, their value is now triple because they're doing it in the playoffs. So why not? If anybody's going to sell, why not sell high? And if anybody's going to sell high on their guys, it's going to be a guy like Bergevin.
So Byron for Eichel, straight up,
straight up. That's it. One for one.
No, let's get nuts.
It would have to be Suzuki.
See, if we're just talking futures here,
maybe it wouldn't.
Like Montreal, immediately my brain went to Cole Caulfield. Montreal would never do that.
No.
Suzuki, I don't think makes any sense for them either. Because
No.
why not? Why not? In a summer where you're potentially losing Dano, it's way easier to stomach if you now have Eichel, Suzuki. Oh,
You lose Dano, you go out and get Eichel for maybe a Romanov. Maybe you sacrifice on the back end.
I was
where
gonna
it's
Well, you're
like-
not playing them anyway.
Right.
Yep.
We have enough matured talent. We send off the young guy who's going to be as good as these guys in a couple of years, but we're trying to win now with this new center. I don't know.
Here's who I target. I'm looking at Alexander Romanov. If I'm Kevin Adams, I'm looking at Matthias Norlinder, who's another defensive prospect who's very well regarded in Montreal. I'm looking at Caden Primo.
That's who I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a deal to be made there. They could do it.
They have enough pieces, right? Especially
They
if
do.
they lose in this round, then it's like, okay, we're almost there. Like
Caden Gooley. There's another guy he's drafted last year. He's 19, defenseman.
also Seattle, like you were alluding to, Steve. Seattle isn't out of the question.
Nope.
No, the Seattle Skinner theory is ridiculous. I think no one's taking on $19 million in a
No.
single trade, but there could be something there. And by the way, just hanging out on Montreal's cap friendly page, these guys are in the final four. They're 6 games away from the cup, 2 away from the final, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 picks in this draft, including 2 second rounders. Jesus, really, really good season for Montreal.
Can I throw out one other team that seems
How many
like
teams? Hey, how many teams are you getting here, man? Because I need to have some teams too.
I'm just spitballing,
Right?
but one team that we've been talking
I like
about
the
for
Central
the last,
Division.
Yeah,
the last
like
decade. Let's hit up the Central, Nashville. For the last decade, they've been looking for a number one center. I don't know their pieces, like I don't have cap friendly open, but Nashville is always interesting because they haven't had a center in the last 400 years. So
I wouldn't put it. Yeah, since David Legwand left, I wouldn't put anything past David Poyle. I do want to say there's 2 teams. There's one that's obvious and one that I don't think is as obvious. Okay, first one, Rangers. Now the Rangers need a win. The Rangers need a win because they had a shitty season. They fired their entire management into the sun, and Chris Drury needs to change the conversation. The Islanders, who they beat for Panarin, are in the 3rd round of the playoffs. You think that's sitting well with Dolan and company? Don't think so.
No.
Don't think so. So they have got to have a win. They got the prospects and the players to do it. You can make it happen. Okay. So that's pretty cool. It's an enticing move. I wondered about the Washington Capitals. Now, I think that sounds crazy. They haven't really even been linked. But what if, because I believe that they're looking to move on from Evgeny Kuznetsov. That's the rumor we've heard. If the Sabres were able to get an asset like Kuznetsov back, so you save $4 million in cap or whatever is 3.5, right? Because I think Kuznetsov makes what, 8.5, 9? And then obviously the Caps are going to re-sign Ovechkin. And it probably helps you if you say, listen, Alex, we're going to bring in Jack Eichel. He makes $10 million. Okay. Can you, because you've made your money and you've said that money doesn't matter. Can you take a little bit less, you and Backstrom, Eichel and whoever, and we're going to have another couple serious runs at this thing. That's a pretty good sales pitch to Alexander Ovechkin, is it not?
It is. I like it. I don't know if it's
a perfect fit, but I wonder.
I don't know if it's feasible.
I think you could do it. Because I think if you're the Sabres, you probably move Kuznetsov. Like if you're going to get him back, Kuznetsov plus, you move Kuznetsov to somebody else's.
Yeah, because he doesn't fit the plans for the Sabres.
Right, but it still gives you the asset you can move.
the interesting thing there for Washington is as long as you have Alexander Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie,